Imagine two men, both 71 years old, both with cholesterol numbers their doctors described as acceptable, both taking the same medication, both believing their arteries were being managed. One of them had a heart attack on a Tuesday morning while getting dressed. The other one didn't. The difference between them had nothing to do with their cholesterol panel. It had everything to do with what was happening inside the walls of their arteries, a process their standard blood work never measured, their doctors never discussed, and that had been building silently for over 2 decades before either man knew anything was wrong. A normal cholesterol number does not mean your arteries are clear. It does not mean plaque is absent. It does not mean your risk is low. It means one specific number fell within a reference range, while the actual condition of your arterial walls remained completely unmeasured and entirely unknown. I'm Dr. Camila Torres, and you are watching Senior Decode. Today we are covering the complete science of arterial plaque reversal. Your morning period represents a window of heightened vascular responsiveness. In this video, I will share the exact drink and its preparation, what it is, how it works, what the research from Harvard, the Karolinska Institute, UCSF, and the NIH actually shows, and the exact morning protocol that targets 4 simultaneous biological mechanisms to begin clearing what decades of modern living have deposited in your arteries. This is the conversation that should happen in every cardiology waiting room. It isn't. So we are having it here. If you are over 60 and you have had a standard lipid panel, your doctor likely reported total cholesterol, LDL, HDL, and triglycerides. If the numbers fell within range, you were probably told your heart health was being managed. What that panel does not tell you is whether oxidized LD, the specific form of cholesterol that actually embeds in arterial walls and triggers plaque formation, is elevated. It does not measure arterial wall flexibility. It does not assess endothelial function, the health of the cell layer lining every blood vessel in your body. And it does not detect the presence or progression of existing plaque. The true markers of cardiovascular risk in older adults are oxidized LDL, high-sensitivity C-reactive protein, which measures systemic inflammation, and carotid intima media thickness, a direct ultrasound measurement of arterial wall changes. These are the markers that predict events. These are the markers that reflect actual arterial biology. And virtually none of them are included in a standard annual physical. Most people over 60 carry a mental image of arterial plaque as something like rust in a pipe, accumulated debris gradually narrowing the channel until flow is restricted. That model is wrong. And the reason it matters that it is wrong is this: if plaque were simply inert buildup, it could only be addressed mechanically. But plaque is not inert. Plaque is a metabolically active biological environment. It contains oxidized cholesterol particles, inflammatory immune cells called macrophages, smooth muscle cells, fibrous tissue, and calcium deposits, all interacting dynamically with the arterial wall and with each other. The stability of that plaque, whether it remains contained or ruptures into the bloodstream triggering a clot, is determined not by its size, but by its inflammatory state. Unstable, inflamed plaque kills people. Stable, resolved plaque can be gradually reabsorbed. And the inflammatory state of plaque responds directly to biochemical inputs. This is the foundation of the entire protocol we are discussing today. For simultaneous biological mechanisms govern whether plaque grows, stabilizes, or reverses. Nitric oxide production in the arterial lining, reverse cholesterol transport through functional HDL, macrophage modulation from inflammatory to resolving behavior, and endothelial repair through progenitor cell signaling. The morning drink we are about to cover activates all 4 simultaneously through ingredients available at any grocery store. Nitric oxide restoration. The endothelium, the single cell layer lining your arteries, produces nitric oxide continuously in healthy adults. Nitric oxide keeps arterial walls relaxed, slippery, and resistant to the adhesion of inflammatory particles. As we age, nitric oxide production declines sharply. The arterial walls stiffen. Their surface becomes adhesive. Plaque formation accelerates. Restoring dietary nitrate, which converts to nitric oxide through a well-documented pathway, directly addresses this mechanism. Reverse cholesterol transport. HDL cholesterol does not simply counterbalance LDL. Functional HDL physically enters arterial wall tissue, loads onto oxidized cholesterol particles, and transports them back to the liver for processing and elimination. This is called reverse cholesterol transport, and it is one of the few biological processes that can actually reduce existing plaque mass. Specific dietary compounds, particularly allicin from raw garlic, have been shown to enhance HDL functionality beyond simply raising HDL numbers. Macrophage modulation. When oxidized LDL accumulates in arterial walls, immune cells called macrophages rush in to address it. In a chronic inflammatory environment, those macrophages become overwhelmed, transform into foam cells, and contribute to plaque instability. When inflammation is resolved through specific anti-inflammatory compounds, macrophages shift to a resolving state, actively clearing cellular debris and stabilizing existing plaque. This distinction between inflamed and resolved plaque is the difference between a vulnerable arterial wall and a stable one. Endothelial repair signaling. Damaged endothelial cells can be replaced through a process involving circulating endothelial progenitor cells mobilized from the bone marrow. Nitric oxide is the primary signal for this mobilization. A well-functioning nitric oxide pathway does not just prevent new damage, it actively recruits the biological machinery to repair existing damage in the arterial lining. Researchers at UCSF measuring flow-mediated dilation, the gold standard assessment of endothelial function, found that polyphenol-rich dietary inputs produced measurable improvements in arterial flexibility within 4 weeks in adults over 60. Arterial walls that had been progressively stiffening began responding to nitric oxide signaling more effectively, a functional change that precedes structural reversal. The Karolinska Institute in Sweden published research demonstrating measurable thinning of carotid artery intima media thickness, a direct structural marker of plaque burden, in participants consuming high nitrate, high polyphenol dietary protocols over 8 to 12 weeks. Structural change, confirmed through imaging, in a timeframe achievable through consistent dietary intervention. Harvard Medical School data from long-term cardiovascular cohort studies linked high polyphenol intake to a 32% reduction in cardiovascular event rates over 10 years, independent of medication use, smoking status, and baseline cholesterol levels. And an NIH meta-analysis examining the combination of dietary nitrates and flavonoids found that their combined effect on endothelial function was 40% greater than either compound produced individually. The synergy between these two compound classes is not additive. It is multiplicative, which is precisely why the morning drink targets both simultaneously. This drink is not a wellness trend. Every ingredient has a specific biochemical role targeting a specific mechanism. Here is exactly what goes into it and exactly why. Raw beet juice, 150 milliliters. The primary nitrate source. Beet juice delivers inorganic nitrate in higher concentrations than any other whole food. Your oral bacteria convert nitrate to nitrite, which your stomach converts to nitric oxide, activating enos, dilating arterial walls, and triggering endothelial progenitor cell mobilization. Cold pressed only. Heat processing destroys 40 to 60% of the nitrate content. Consume this drink first thing in the morning before brushing teeth or using mouthwash. The oral bacteria required for nitrate to nitrite conversion are eliminated by antibacterial mouthwash. One study from the University of Plymouth demonstrated that morning mouthwash use reduced the blood pressure effect of dietary nitrate, a direct proxy for nitric oxide production, by over 90%. Brush your teeth the night before. Use mouthwash at night. Protect your oral microbiome in the morning. Consume the drink warm, not cold. Warm liquids stimulate vasodilation directly through thermoreceptors in the esophagus and stomach lining, potentiating the arterial relaxation effect of the nitric oxide before it even reaches full systemic circulation. For daily food pillars, reinforce the morning drinks mechanisms throughout the day. Pomegranate, 1 serving daily. Punic halogens in pomegranate are the most potent polyphenols studied specifically for carotid intima media thickness reduction. A 3-year Israeli study found that daily pomegranate consumption reduced carotid wall thickness by 30% while reducing oxidized LDL by 90%. Wild-caught fatty fish 3 times weekly. EPA and DHA directly improve the fluidity of cell membranes throughout the cardiovascular system, reduce triglycerides, and shift macrophage behavior from inflammatory to resolving, reinforcing the same mechanism the morning drink targets. Dark leafy greens daily. Spinach, arugula, and Swiss chard provide a secondary continuous stream of dietary nitrates alongside lutein, which has been independently linked to reduced arterial wall inflammation. Walnuts, a small handful daily. Among the richest plant sources of L-arginine, the direct amino acid precursor to nitric oxide, walnuts feed the production pathway the beet juice initiates, extending nitric oxide availability throughout the day. For tracking progress, request oxidized LDL and high-sensitivity CRP at your next medical appointment alongside your standard lipid panel. These are the markers that reflect actual arterial biology. Functional changes begin appearing at 4 weeks. Structural changes, measurable reductions in arterial wall thickness, occur in the 8 to 12-week window with consistent daily protocol adherence. For mistakes that eliminate the protocol's effectiveness entirely. Cooking the garlic. Heat destroys allicin. There is no workaround. The garlic must be raw, freshly minced, and consumed immediately. This is non-negotiable. Replacing whole food ingredients with supplements. Isolated nitrate capsules, garlic pills, and curcumin extracts do not replicate the bioavailability or synergistic activity of whole food matrices. The fiber, polyphenol cofactors, and enzymatic activity present in whole foods are mechanistically essential, not incidental. Skipping weekends. The biochemical signaling pathways this protocol activates, particularly nitric oxide-mediated endothelial repair, require consistent daily input to sustain. Interrupting the signal for 2 consecutive days each week disrupts the cumulative repair process. Consistency is the mechanism. Intermittency defeats it. Grapefruit consumption if you are on statins, calcium channel blockers, or certain anticoagulants. Grapefruit inhibits the liver enzyme CYP3A4 responsible for metabolizing these medications, potentially causing dangerous concentration increases. This protocol does not include grapefruit, but if you add it independently, discuss with your physician first. The man who had a heart attack at 71 did not fail to try hard enough. He was given an incomplete picture of what was happening inside his arteries and an incomplete set of tools to address it. You now have a more complete picture. Arterial plaque is not your destiny. It is a dynamic biological structure that responds to biochemical inputs you can control, starting tomorrow morning with a 4-minute drink that costs less than your morning coffee. 4 weeks for functional change. 8 to 12 weeks for structural change. That is the timeline the research supports. Give it that time. I'm Dr. Camila Torres. This is Senior Decode. Share this with someone whose heart health matters to you, because this information belongs in every conversation about aging, and almost none of them are having it. See you in the next one.